Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Recalibrate podcast. Today, I'm excited about today because we have a guest in studio with us. And this episode ties directly into my last episode, where in the last one, we talked about some of the options younger people have coming out of high school. And not just high school, but just when you're young, whether you're still in college, whether you're in high school, or just whether you're at home. You know, what are some of the options that younger people have, and the military being one of them. So today, I actually have my son, Andrew, here in studio with me today. And his option that he chose was the military. So when he was coming out of school and he was thinking about what choices he was going to make, he chose that military option. And I thought, man, what better guest to have on than someone who's actually kind of been through it in the entry stages, for anyone who not just is kind of considering it, but for parents as well who are unfamiliar with this process, who might want to make it a consideration or just might be unfamiliar with this particular option. So without further ado, Andrew, how we doing tonight, man?
All right, thanks for introducing me. I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to what we have to discuss on this podcast. And here I am with my dad, just having a conversation.
Yeah. No, this is going to be good, man. So, I mean, you've been in the Marine Corps now, what? It's been over a year. How long exactly?
I mean, in total, come this April, we're going to be in 2 years. So April 14th. So really not that long.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously I know where you're at, but just for everybody listening, where are you currently stationed at?
I'm stationed on Camp Pendleton, which is in Southern California, closer to that San Diego, Oceanside area. It's the biggest Marine Corps base the U.S. Marine Corps has to offer. So it's pretty hard to miss.
I don't think it's bigger than 29 Palms. I think 29 Palms is like the biggest size-wise with training.
Yeah, okay. So the 29 Palms is probably, because there's so many ranges on there.
Yeah.
I would say overall, though, just like areas and places for, Marines to go.
It is huge.
Yeah.
It's massive. Somebody told me, I don't know how accurate this is, but somebody told me that Pendleton is the size of Rhode Island, which is pretty crazy to consider when you look at Rhode Island as a state, and that you're on Camp Pendleton all the time. But what unit you with?
I'm with HMLA 169,
which is
it's basically a Marine Light Attack Helicopter Squadron, and it's Cobras and Hueys. So if anyone's not familiar with that, it's basically any Vietnam, movie you've seen, and it's the birds that come and blow everything up.
Old school. So just the old school Hueys coming in, and then Cobras. Any of the old, kids growing up in the 80s, maybe even early 90s, G.I. Joe, that was a Dragonfly, man. Love it. There's nothing better than going to visit Andrew on Pendleton and seeing the Cobras. For me personally, I love it.
Yeah.
So when let's go back to you being in high school. Okay.
All right.
And you're kind of growing up through that age. And I'm talking, let's go back even like sophomore, junior, senior. At that point, what future did you kind of envision for yourself? What were you thinking at that point back then?
So coming out of freshman year, going straight into sophomore year, I was actually pretty set on the SEALs, because I played baseball for probably my whole life at that point, maybe, 11, 12 years. And that going into the SEALs is what really inspired me to join water polo, which was a complete U-turn, other than besides the fact, if anyone's even heard of water polo before, basically what the sport is you're swimming, and it's almost like playing basketball and volleyball at the same time, but you're in the water and you're treading water the whole time. So it gets you in insanely great shape. And knowing that going into Buzz training, I was going to have to get pretty good at, pretty comfortable with the water. And as much as I like baseball, I had to make that decision. And I was super motivated and dedicated to go that path. So I ended up playing water polo for like maybe 4 years after that. I think I played even one more year after I got out. So,
well, I want to say, wasn't it an actual SEAL who told you, talked you into?
Yeah, it was a SEAL. I can't remember his name. I think his name was actually Andrew as well.
Yeah.
He was on a Jocko podcast, and we were somehow able to get a hold with him. I think you were on the Echelon Front website. You were in one of the Zoom calls. Anyways, he said, I mean, a lot of SEALs say this really is no way to prepare for buds, but he did say the recommendations, a lot of the SEALs that did make it through, their history was wrestling, water polo. I think it was football. Was it football?
I don't remember football. In fact, I remember talking to a lot of people.
I think it was it was cross country.
Cross country.
Yeah. It was like the three sports that really weren't like that popular in high school. But
from a condition
physically, it's like they're all brutally insane. I know wrestling because I knew a couple guys in wrestling that he did water polo and wrestling. That guy was like insane shape. So,
it's funny. Like so many young people in high school, and when you're there, you think of the big three, right? Basketball, football, baseball, but really, it's kind of some of those other ones that are probably better for you. Like you said, cross country, water polo, wrestling, especially, man. Especially if you're going to like
tell you what, if
jiu-jitsu.
As dumb as you may look in the Speedo, I had a fantastic tan. So something you want to consider. But of course, I live in California. So
that took some getting used to. I mean,
yeah, you just got to look at the bright side of those things.
Yeah. You were in phenomenal shape. I'll tell you that. Okay, so you're in high school. So initially, you want to go Navy, and in particular the SEAL. So you talked to some guys, and your choices had kind of helped you select certain things, and from an athletic standpoint to get you ready. And then at some point, you switched gears from the Navy to the Marines. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'll be brutally honest. I kind of just started getting, the high school life got to me. I will definitely say that was around the time COVID hit. So my first sophomore semester, that's when everything was normal still. I was in, playing water polo, fully motivated to go towards that route. COVID hit second semester. That's when they were like, hey, we're going to have an extra long spring break, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously the pandemic happened. So I would say during that time frame was like crucial for a lot of people. And definitely at that like weird age of, how old was I? 16 at the time, going on to 17. It's definitely an age where you're still, and coming into a new school as well, I was still trying to find new friends. So that really kind of screwed me over. Really, all I had was a couple guys on the team, knew some guys through class. Anyways, I started running with a rougher crowd, and long story short, that motivation to go SEAL died out pretty quick, especially through the pandemic. So that it's really unfortunate looking back, but really to sum it up is I just had zero desire to go that route anymore, and I definitely knew I still wanted to go military, though. I will say there were points where I was debating it because the lack of motivation I lost afterwards, after the whole pandemic and getting back in the swing of school and everything in my junior year, I was thinking of going to college. I got a girlfriend at one point, and I was thinking maybe I should just stay back and, just see what I could, do in the hometown. Anyways, I snapped out of it, and I was like, all right, you know what? At this point, I wasn't in the best shape, and I was like, I definitely don't want to go to college because school wasn't my strong suit. I wasn't like a F, D- student. Maybe I had a D here and there, but I was definitely more of a C, low B type of guy. I just was the average guy that flew under the radar. And, I'll say I think one big factor that why I started thinking about college so much is how much the school was kind of rubbing it in the face. I lost count of how many times we, had assemblies and little speeches and stuff on, hey, like, this is what you're going to do in college. This is, the degrees you're going to be able to choose. These are the opportunities. They give the whole shebang, PowerPoint. And to be honest, I had zero interest in it at the time. It was just, more time to slack off during class. But,
okay, so let's get back to, I want to ask something about that. So when you're in school, and you're your time in school and all the kids that went to school with you at your time, you guys kind of got boned with COVID, but even going with Zoom and when you did get back in there, I think it was towards the end of your junior year and all your senior year. What was it that the school was really pushing for you? Like with graduation coming up, like what did you feel was the path that they were presenting to you in order to prepare you for the future? Like what was your experience with that?
Well, if I can remember, really, I mean, after COVID, I don't think I remember seeing recruiters show up once because I don't think they were allowed to, just because of the whole social distancing and stuff. So I remember recruiters hardly ever seeing recruiters. I mean, there was ROTC. That was about it, but
that was offered to the school, right? So
yeah, that was with the school, and I remember a lot
of they offer the ASVAB.
They did, yeah, they offer the ASVAB. Although I'll tell you what, it was very low key. It wasn't like a big deal. It was like more so like word just got out, like, oh yeah, the ASVAB is at 1:15 today in the library, and nobody knew what the ASVAB was. And it was like, okay, well, why would I take a test that's not going to benefit me? So there was people who knew what the ASVAB was. Like I knew what it was. I was aware of it. But there was a lot of people that weren't. Like my friends. They were like, what's the ASVAB? Is it for college? Not a lot of people were familiar with it. Maybe very like few teachers would actually get into depth on it and actually like go over that career path of going down the military and what the ASVAB is for. It's for all the branches. But if there was a SAT on campus, it was like, the news was there to spread it around.
So everything from like morning announcements,
yeah, like, hey, guess what's going on today? Yeah. But as that happened, and it was like, okay.
Well. Okay, so not a lot of pro military. So they're pushing SAT, not a lot of pro military stuff. What else would they push around school, like junior, senior year? Anything in particular?
I mean, I want to say my junior year is a bad example because COVID we were just fresh getting out of it. It was the hybrid system. So to be honest, it was kind of failing. We were still on Zoom calls here and there. So I just kind of want to rule out my junior year in general. So that was just a waste of time. Senior year is when things started getting normal again. I remember that's when I started to see recruiters come out. I would probably see a recruiter like once every couple of months. And if there was a recruiter, I think our ROTC was the Marines. So it was the Marines that would come and set up shop. I never talked to them. They would set up a pull-up bar. That was about it. And, some dudes would try to go out, do what they can. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a rule because I remember talking to a recruiter. They're only allowed to go there a certain amount of times. But as for I remember colleges setting up shop. Probably, I think there was literally every Friday, colleges would come on campus, and it was just for juniors and seniors to go and walk up and talk to them. Like, I forgot the name for it, but it was like these leadership classes in high school, and literally every Friday they would have like community colleges come in. Universities.
Was it more? I was going to say, was it more local schools or?
Yeah, there was most of it was local, and then every now and then there'd be a straggler, like a university. Like, hey, you want to go to Oregon? It was like kind of just random. All
right. So then, what ultimately led you to consider the military as an option? Because I was in the Marine Corps, but I know there's always people who are like, oh, well, Dad was in the military, so he must have been pushing Andrew to go, but. I never felt I did. I never felt I rammed it down your throat or anything. Your mom and I always felt like you kind of came to that option, that opinion on your own.
Yeah, I mean, basically, as long as I can remember, I saw a couple war movies and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. So I was never into school, and I definitely at that time was not mature enough to take any schooling after I graduated. I was not in the mindset for it. I didn't even leave right away. I think I stayed around for like another year afterwards. And it really, like, even after being a year after high school, and really just kind of, I just worked at a brewery at the time and just working a normal job. I got really tired of it, and I just knew that going to the military was going to be the quickest option out of there. And I knew that's what I wanted to do anyway. I was procrastinating. I was pushing it off. I just wanted to be lazy, have a year off after school. But I knew at that time I definitely wasn't in the best shape. I mean, I wasn't like fat, but I was a little chubby. And I was like, I also found out that if you go SEALs and you don't make it, essentially you're still on a Navy contract. And now the Navy could do with whatever they want with you. You don't cut it through for, whatever amount of years that is. So, you could have that mindset like, all right, well, just don't quit. Just don't quit. And, it's hard to rule that factor because I know I didn't want to be on a ship. So I was like, I'll just be the next best thing. And I'll just go Marine Corps. So
yeah, that was what I wanted to ask was you'd been talking about the Navy and trying out for the SEALs. And I know you had done enough research to find out that you had to sign up for 2 jobs, right? Like you could put in for buds.
Yeah, I mean, I walked into the Navy recruiting a couple of times. I started signing papers. He had me take his little mini ASVAB. I mean, I was in the swing of it, and then I kind of just ghosted him because I remember it was funny. He was like, I sat down and I told him how I wanted to go SEALs and everything, and he was like, "Oh, okay," and trying to get me motivated and stuff. And he wasn't necessarily like out of shape, but he started saying, he was like, "You got what it takes. You got what it takes." I'm just kind of looking at him like, who are you to ask me those questions?
They probably get a lot of young people who walk in.
Yeah, I figured. But I don't know. And then he just pulled out like this super big vape, like an absurd vape, and he just started blowing it in my face. And then he's asking me questions like, "You don't smoke, right?" I'm like, "No, but what the fuck does it matter? Like, here you are." So yeah, it was just and at that time I was still really iffy, even just going spec ops as well. So I was like, you know what, man? I was like, I'm not going to take this gamble, especially if this is what, the cover of the book looks like. So, head over to the Marine Corps, and right away, I mean, those guys were, I think at the time, the guy was pretty squared away. He was a crew chief, and he was talking to me, and he was all for it, gave me his number. And then he ended up changing recruiting stations, sent me over to a different guy. Sergeant Kellen, I think. But yeah, and then that's when I started getting into the swing of everything.
So, okay, so you're going through, I mean, you ultimately chose the Marine Corps. Did you ever consider the Army or the Air Force? I mean, Navy's ruled out, you choose the Marine Corps, but did you ever look at the other branches?
Yeah, so I think, I didn't really have a lot of Army. I didn't have a lot of people in the Army. I think I knew one guy. He was in the Rangers, and I heard he did really good. And he was in great shape. And if anything, I did consider going Rangers at some point too. Although I don't know what it was. I just think the Army never really like caught my interest as much. If I have to give a solid reason behind it, I don't know why. And with the Air Force, I didn't have the ASVAB score for it, and I just feel like it wasn't going to suit me anyway. Just because of the sole fact that I knew they were a lot more smarter. So my first ASVAB score, I think I got like a 28. It wasn't even passing. So, yeah, I was just like, I'm not even going to try to sniff the win over there. But
that's the beauty with the ASVAB, man. I mean, David Goggins has a great story about how he just kept chipping away at it and chipping away at it. And I know you took it a couple times, so you got.
There's nothing more humbling than that first time you take it, and you're like, oh, okay. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, if they don't push it in school, because that's kind of your first introductory to it, right? I mean, if they don't push it and get young people ready for it, then you walk in not understanding what the hell you're supposed to do, and it's a culture shock because you're getting tested in a lot of different areas. What is it, like 5 or 6 different sections, right? I mean, there's a lot of different areas that you're getting tested in. So if you walk in completely oblivious to what they're testing, well, I'm not surprised that people don't do well that first time around.
Well, I mean, after the first couple times, I hired a tutor, like literally an ASVAB tutor. These guys are just specific tutors on the ASVAB. So, And I was with him probably for like 4 or 5 months. And we would meet up weekly at the public library or do it over a Zoom call. And we would just touch on the subjects that I basically had no idea what I was talking about. Like I was not very tool savvy before I joined. Like I knew what a hammer, Phillips, and a flathead was, and that was about it. Everything else, I mean, I didn't really know what any tools were. And then with, math, it was still, honestly, believe it or not, like math was probably one of the more subjects I was better in just because I was still pretty fresh out of high school. And I was able to like kind of remember some of the Common Core math they were doing. But then it was like English comprehension, just some of the stuff, but mainly like mechanical comprehension was big. Math was big too. I think they even had like a little electric section. They got all these random sections,
Yeah. So ultimately, I mean, you get the score you need, you pass that, and now we're on to the big fish, right? It's I say big fish because it's what everybody knows about. They make movies about it, and everybody's concerned, but realistically, it isn't that big a deal at all. And I'm talking about boot camp, right? When you go to Marine Corps boot camp, man, it's a big deal initially.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to let you talk about this.
Yeah.
But, what did you do to prepare for boot camp? Like, from a mental standpoint and physically, what did you do?
Well, I'll be honest. I was definitely pumped going into boot camp because I was so excited to leave, home.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, not saying that you guys were bad or anything, but my point is I just got really tired of just, not doing anything. And granted, I was only around for a year after high school, if that. And yeah, so I was just pumped, man, because this was, my first big boy decision, and it was kind of like my first big boy calls. So I was like, sweet. And you hear about it in the movies and stuff, Marine Corps boot camp, and what guys go through. I heard about your stories, uncles, friends. So it was it was fun. Definitely leading up to that. We went to San Diego Airport and we were in the USO, and I actually shaved my head prior going. So I was like, I was all in. I thought I was so badass for showing up with a shaved head. And yeah, I was definitely all that faded away real quick as soon as we got on those white buses, and the bus stops in front of MCRD. Then that voice starts to creep in your head, like, okay, like I'm actually here. And then bus doors open, and I just remember this big dude just walked up and and then all of a sudden I was so pumped and I was scared shitless.
Okay, so that was kind of going to be my next question. I feel like you maybe answered it though. So first impression, you're at the airport and you're pumped, right? You got all this adrenaline going, and then as you're pulling onto base, is that pumped kind of turning into what?
Well, maybe it's just like there's no turning back now. So it's like at the USO, maybe like, okay, I still have my phone, I can still talk to my parents, my friends, like. Then they take your phone away, and then all of a sudden you just start to sit down and think, like, okay, like, this is it. You get on the bus, you're driving. I mean, it's not a far drive, the airport's right there.
And they're at the airport because you got people flying in from all over the country.
You got people flying in, yeah. I think I took a bus from my MEP station. So I just happened to pull up. So I was super comfortable. I was familiar with the area. Like, it's pretty, grew up in SoCal, pretty much my whole life. So, yeah, I mean, why would I be scared? I felt like I was still at home.
Yeah.
And then, it was, you step on those yellow footprints, and as soon as you start to realize you just have no control on what is going on, and you start become, cattle in the herd. And
so when that first drill instructor steps on the bus and they just start barking out orders, like, what's that first impression like?
You're thinking like,
shit just got real.
Yeah, like, okay, like it's the movie's for real. Yeah, I can't even remember what he said because your adrenaline's pumping so much and you're just staring at him and you're like, I remember he was like 6'2", and he was He's all buff, and he had his chucks tailored to where they're super tight around his.
Of course,
Yeah.
Of course.
So
Well, you're
veins popping. He's all tatted on one arm, and he's got half a sleeve on the other.
yeah,
And
good.
he's
That's the way it should be. You know, and I'm sure that's planned out, and good. I'm glad that's the guy that steps on the bus. So what? I mean, boot camp. It's different for the branches. The Marine Corps is 13 weeks. I think the others are all around 8 weeks, 8 or 9 weeks. But for standard boot camp, the Marine Corps has the longest. And, for you, while you're there, there's no time off, right? In the sense of like, you don't get to leave. You don't get to go home. You don't get to make, regular phone calls. I think while you were there, they offered, what'd they offer you you could make one call?
Yeah, it was Mother's Day. And it was something the DIs were trying to do, like real low key. To be honest, I don't remember why. But they were like, all right, they're like, you guys could call your mothers on. I was like our senior drill instructor. He's like, you call your mother on my phone for 2 minutes. That's it. And a lot of guys did it. I didn't honestly, it was just like, I mean, I think at this point, we were maybe 3 weeks in, and I was already like kind of locked into the point where like, this is just life now. And I didn't want to get that setback because I knew I was going to start tearing up, and I know Mom was too. So I was like, man, I don't want to do that. Call home and just totally like,
Have to mentally start over.
Yeah. It's like, that's what happened to a lot of guys. They're like, damn, dude, like I miss home. Like I can't believe like I heard my mom's voice. And I'm just, that was why I didn't. And then there was guys I just didn't want to call their mom at all for other reasons. But, yeah, so that
was probably a good call, man. I mean, I know your mom disagrees, and she probably still disagree to this day. But from that standpoint, you're there for a reason. You have your goal, and setbacks are hard. They're hard for to get back in the game and to finish it out. So while you're there, I mean, that was one little challenge that you had. But what do you think was the most challenging thing for you in boot camp during the 13 weeks while you're there?
Well, okay, I would definitely
let me ask you kind of like a two-parter here. Like, what was the most challenging thing for you? And then what did you notice was the most challenging thing for recruits in general? Like for other people who were going, and like just the guys in general who were there, coming from all walks of life, right? Because there's kids from all over the country who come. What was the most challenging thing for them as well?
Yeah, I would say every single guy goes through this, whether they're leaving mommy and daddy or not. Just the fact of they're not home anymore. That first week sucks. Like that first mental barrier, because you're sleep deprived. They keep you up for the first 3 days you're there. It's like 2-3 days you're just up for 48 or 72 hours. And then you get, you go to your squad bay and you meet your drill instructors, and you're just getting ripped for a week, but you're also doing all the boring stuff, like checking in the dental and all that. That first week sucks because you're just not home anymore. And it's, that was like a hard mental barrier for a lot of guys to get over. I'd say that once you hit like mid the end of week 2, week 3, it's just life. And then I would say in general, everyone started to get the hang of it, I would say by second phase. So like by week, 5, 6, everyone was pretty locked in, but there was just some guys, man, that just didn't get it. They just didn't either hear the drill instructors all the time, or their discipline just never snapped into him. Lazy, they just didn't show like enough compassion. So those guys would get, everyone out in the dirt. But for the most part, I mean, I would say, yeah, everyone missed home. That was really the most reoccurring conversation, probably. Guys were hungry. Probably sleeping is probably the biggest thing too. Fall asleep standing up. And marching too is also difficult, just because of it's not marching itself, but just the amount of hours out there. But really, it's just a mental game. That's all it is. You can point at all the physical attributes all you want, but I would really point at the fact that it's all, as soon as guys realize that it's a game and this is just what the DIs are here to do, it gets pretty easy after that. And some guys didn't get that. Some guys weren't able to comprehend, like, they just thought they hated them. They thought they were like the worst person on earth. So really, like, sometimes, like, we had to talk to each other, like, dude, like, no matter what, we're wrong, okay? So it's the drill instructors are going to IT you whether you like it or not, and it's all just one big game, and you're just on a miracle.
Well, I think more so than a game, it's like a training schedule, right? Because every class goes through the same thing. You got to take this herd, as you put it earlier, all these young people who come from all corners of the country that have different walks of life. They come from different financial backgrounds, different upbringings, and you slap them all into this group, and you have to break them down, right? Because they all think differently. They're all selfish. They all think as individuals, and you have to get them working as a team. So you have to break them down as quickly as possible, because you're sticking to this training schedule. And man, some guys have a hard time dealing with that, in addition to just like missing home. Right?
Yeah.
So missing home being the biggest thing. And then I guess like what you're saying, like the ones who had a hard time dealing with the drill instructors were probably the ones that were never challenged, or maybe just didn't have that structure at home. So they show up to boot camp and it's like, man, fucking culture shock.
Yeah, I mean, there was guys that would just talk back no matter what. And guys like that would end up getting dropped, or, whatever reason it was. But, yeah, I would definitely say it's just more of a structure. You got the onesies and twosies in your platoon that it doesn't click for them. And it sucks. But
well, I mean, I guess it's both ways, right? I mean, guys go into the military hoping it works out for them. They're looking for this career, but the military is also like, well, we need to make sure that you work out for us as well. So it's such a finely tuned process that these guys know what they're doing. These drill instructors know what they're doing, that, hey, this guy's just not going to cut it. And I'm sure they have to push it to as far as they absolutely can in order to salvage that individual. But at some point you're like, man, this kid's going to turn into a discipline issue. He's going to get in trouble. He's going to be a liability for us. We just got to let him go.
Yeah, I mean, there was time the drill instructors, like, they truly would try to keep these guys, like, going. Like, they'd take their cover off, their campaign cover off, and they would, like, pull them to the side, and you'd see him. And, like, the drill instructors would truly be like, look, dude, like, we just, like, you got to, like, snap. Like, we're not trying to kill you. We aren't going to kill you. We're just trying to push you. They would truly try to motivate them. And the reason I know what they said, because they would come up and tell us what they told them. But, yeah, and some of them would be like, okay, like, that's what they had to hear. And others just didn't care. So what was like your biggest standout moment in boot camp? Like, what was like where it all came together for you, would you say? Well, I would probably say once we started, like, doing the O course and stuff, that's when we really started to, like, PT a lot more. And like, I wasn't truly in the best shape, but I started to realize, like, even, like, the physical aspect of it, it was hard, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't that hard. And, like, really the hardest part of boot camp was just, like, yourself, like, the mental games. You'd play, like, oh my gosh, we have to do this today, then we have to go do that, we have to do this. And, like, once you really, what I started to break it down to was just make it to the next chow. If you, like, look at every single day, just chow to chow, because you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it goes by a lot quicker. So just literally making it to the next meal, and then before you know it, you're in your rack saying lights out. So,
and then, I mean, everything that you're learning in the different phases of boot camp, you're building up towards the crucible, which is kind of like the test towards the end. Mm-hmm. Any standout or moments that you felt hit you in that time?
Yeah, I mean, well, definitely you can't get through the crucible if you aren't working as a team. So, that's the biggest aspect of it is, as much as you may hate the dude that's been getting you screwed up throughout, the whole basic training, he may be on your team, during the crucible. And whether it's log runs or you guys are doing medic evacs and or you're just clearing buildings, it's really the biggest part was being able to pit whatever hate you have against that person and just look at another guy. He's just trying to become a Marine too. So
it's not all love when you're in there. I mean, you.
No, it's not. But yeah, it was cool. I had fun during the Crucible. It really wasn't that like bad as it make it out to seem. Like you had to sleep outside for 3 days. It was only 3 days long, so you're off minimal sleep and you're just shitting out MREs. But I would really say the Crucible was definitely it was cool because you were truly like doing like the Marine stuff, stuff you saw in the commercials, and that was like the first time we really started to do it. So yeah, it's definitely not all fun and games, and DIs definitely have a field day with you. But I would say going throughout the Crucible, man, what's the proper name? You would go to the signs and they'd be like attention orders, and they'd go over someone who got the Medal of Honor or like high reward in the military. Man, what's the proper name of it? I can't think of it. I'll have to search it up when I go back to it. But basically you would go through these signs throughout the Crucible, and they would just go over like Marines who have got awarded the Medal of Honor, and you would just hear these badass stories, man, of these dope Marines. And this is when the DIs would take their campaign covers off and be like, look at the bigger picture. Like, these guys had to go through this, these guys had to go through that. Like, this is nothing. And then you kind of are thinking like, this is nothing. Like, okay, I'm tired, so what? And then really you start to realize that it's not that bad at all. And all of a sudden, once everyone gets that same energy, and you guys are all kind of like looking at each other like, it's not that bad. Like, it's not as bad as you make it seem to be. That's all it is how you make it out to be.
Yeah, I think it's pretty humbling. I mean, anybody who reads some of these stories from whether it's World War I or World War II, Vietnam, Korea. I mean, some of the stories that you read, especially military stories of what guys have gone through, it puts things in order real quick. Yeah. And it puts most of our days in order pretty quick. I'm not trying to minimize the problems people go through right now at home, to say that, it ain't shit, but when, for the most part,
specifically for those events we were going through, it was like, okay, like this is fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, at the end of 13 weeks, you guys earned the title, and every young Marine gotta have the utmost respect for all the young people who do volunteer, and they said, whether it's the Marine Corps or any other branch, but when you go to the Marines, you step on those yellow footprints and you graduate. Man, have the utmost respect for young people, especially these days, because it isn't pushed. It isn't really favored in a lot of eyes. But when they do it, you earn that title, you leave boot camp, and you push off to MCT or SOI, School of Infantry or Marine Combat Training. In your case, you went to MCT, Marine Combat Training, over at Camp Pendleton. What was Marine Combat Training School like, and how did it differ from boot camp for you?
Well, right off the bat, it was a complete U-turn because, we show up in our alphas and we're thinking we're about to get chewed out because we just came back. At least me specifically, I came back from just a 10-day boot camp leave. I think there was guys coming back from the recruitment leave as well. And, they didn't even really inspect us. They were pretty laid back. We had formations and stuff. We immediately changed into camis. So they got us into camis and they got us into the squad bay. And you could tell, they were kind of explaining what was going to go on. They were like, you guys aren't going to be here for X amount of weeks. So it was nowhere near as long. And I think it's only 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks.
It's like a month, right?
It's like a month, yeah. And and the instructors were, they were still strict. They're like sergeants, staff sergeants. You have, your gunnies running around. I think there was maybe one corporal. But I would definitely say they were a little more rough in the beginning, but they kind of eased up real quick. It was more of a stern talking. Like, okay, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to go here, we're going to go here, go. And we're like, aye, Staff Sergeant.
Yeah. So, and it's just exposure, right?
Yeah.
To weapon systems. And...
They're really, I will say they did a pretty good job of trying to break us out of that robot mode. They were trying to like have us relax a little.
Like the recruit boot camp mentality.
Yeah. So they're like, obviously when you go up and greet them, proper greeting of the day and all that, but that's it. So they definitely started to relax a lot more on us. And yeah, like you said, we're just going through the weapon systems of how to, every Marine is a rifleman, So there was going, showing us how to, actually pack when we're going out to the field and stuff, field stripping MREs and just, life hacks, on what to actually do when you're going out there, going on humps. So,
that's there's a lot of guys I talk to who, whether they were in the Marine Corps or even in the Marine Corps in some cases, in the military in general, they kind of like, I don't want to say talking shit's the right phrase for it, but they almost mention like a school like MCT, it was, like it was this or it was that. But I think about people who don't get to go to a school like that. And, MCT was kind of cool. It was, the timing was appropriate. It's just kind of exposure to the different weapon systems and going out on all the humps and, again, sleeping under the stars and all that stuff. Throwing grenades. Like, you're doing cool shit.
Yeah.
The average person isn't doing.
I had a blast. And, I remember we were going on like these, training recon missions, just like a squad of 4.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I was having
it's
so
like war
much fun.
games.
That's all you do. All you do. You just play war games. So, some guys were complaining and they're like, oh, I can't believe we have to go on another 15K hump. But it's like after the hump, then we set up, our holes and stuff, and we're getting ready to like defend, like the other 100 guys that are coming to, sneak attack us. And we're setting up these 240s like on the tripod and everything. I was having a great time.
I know there's sucky elements of it. Like if it's cold, like, cold just sucks, right? Doesn't matter what you're doing. Cold sucks. Like you could be skiing, and if you love skiing, well, it just sucks that it's cold, right? Mm-hmm. But, going MCT, like when it's cold out and you got to dig a fighting hole or something, like there's certain elements that suck about doing it. But man, overall, it was war games. It was like, man, this is, I don't know. I found it fun, shooting tracers and playing the war games. But
yeah, and that was I was able to become guide in MCT for pretty much the whole time. And anyone who doesn't know what guide is, it's basically, you have your squad leaders, and in this case, a guy would be like a platoon sergeant. So essentially, you're just in charge of, I might say my platoon probably had like 50, 60 people. So, and then I would represent, that platoon. So that was like my first time, because I was a squad leader in boot camp for like the first 2 phases, and then I screwed up in final drill, so I got fired. And I didn't really get any exposure, other than just like making sure guys had the recruit tape on properly on their racks and stuff. But MCT was actually cool because we were actually doing, courses and like obstacles, training events that required me to actually lead. So that was like the first time I had exposure to being in charge of a good handful of people, Granted, it was just MCT, but guys were getting fired. There was actually a corporal reservist that came back. I don't know what process he went through, but he was guide because, why wouldn't you make an NCO, guide of an MCT platoon? And, he was talking trash on MCT this whole time because somehow he hit the fleet and then he had to go do MCT. I don't know what route he went that he did, some reservist route. But, he ended up getting fired like a couple weeks in because I forgot the exact reason, but I remember he kept screwing up, and like all the sergeants and staff sergeants were like looking at him like, what are you doing? Like, wow, you got privates beating you out. So yeah, that was, that was like the role, the position. So they definitely weren't light on it. It was pretty important, because you're basically running the whole shebang with the platoon, especially when we had to start packing, making sure everyone had the right stuff packed properly. So I remember like just showing everyone how to pack step by step, and it was a super cool experience for me, and I loved every second of it. So,
all right. So then you wrap up MCT, and for anyone who goes to the School of Infantry, I mean, it's for the infantrymen who go, it's a little bit longer, 6 months. But for all the other Fleet Marines, they go to MCT. So you wrap up MCT, and then you go to your MOS school, your military occupational specialty school, or your job school. Mm-hmm. And that could be, just depends on what your job is. You'll go anywhere throughout the nation. My school was here in California. Yours was Pensacola, Florida, yeah. Right? So, I mean, I don't want to, we don't have to do a deep dive on that. You just basically go to your school and you learn the trade of your job, right? And when you wrap that up, you check into your fleet, into your unit.
Yeah. So, but like there's certain MOSs that have like an A school, and then I'm pretty sure it's just a B school that's after that. Like for me, I had 2 schools. So I don't think we covered this, but my MOS is aviation ordnance. So Pensacola, Florida, you go there, and that's basically where the whole like United States Marine Corps goes for Air Wing. So you have, your ordnance men there, you have your mechanics, the crew chiefs go there. Everyone goes there, and that's like their A school. So when I say A school, it's like their general schooling. Okay. So you go there for, maybe like 4 or 5 weeks. Like my schooling wasn't that long at all. But then you have guys like the crew chiefs, which everyone and their mom wants to be a crew chief. So the school was backed up literally like a year. Like it was ridiculous. Guys were stuck there for a very long time. And then after you're done with Pensacola, Florida, because no matter where your duty station is, you go there.
But now life here at this point, for people listening who are thinking about joining, right? So boot camp, you're there 13 weeks, Monday through, Sunday through Saturday, you're just there, stuck 24 hours a day. You're not going anywhere. MCT, kind of the same thing, but you get some time off. You just can't really leave the area. Mm-hmm. Whereas now when you're at your MOS school, it's just kind of like a school environment, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Monday through Friday, kind of college type hours, right? I mean, it's 8 to 5, evenings off, weekends off. You're just kind of living the life at this point.
Yeah, you wake up and you have your PT 04 in the morning, and then you go back to your room, shower, get dressed, just throw on your camis, grab some chow, and then you just walk over to school.
Yeah, you just go in class.
Yeah, you just sit in a class and you learn whatever you got to learn, and then you're free. Basically at the end of the night, they would have this thing called rack checks for like every single person in the barracks. So whatever staff NCO had that duty that night, basically you would just go up to every single room and make sure you're alive, and that was it. So then you just go to sleep. You're not allowed to leave the barracks.
It's probably more so that somebody's not out partying or going crazy.
Right, yeah. Because once rack checks happen, you're not supposed to leave. Yeah. So everyone is supposed to be back, and then that's how a lot of guys got NJP'd, which NJP, it's a non-judicial punishment. Basically, it's a big no-no.
Yeah, you screwed up, basically.
Yeah.
So okay, so your A school then, for everyone who's in aviation, you're figuring out what sort of aircraft you're going to work on?
Yeah. So they when you're in this A school, they go over all the aircraft the Marine Corps has to offer, and like specifically for my MOS ordnance, right, which is all the weapons, guns, missiles, rockets, all the stuff that goes boom. So we're going over all the bombs that the F-18s, 35s were able to carry, and like what type of missiles they would shoot, or what type of missiles Cobras and Hueys would shoot. You have all these aircraft, all these guns that transports would carry, and that was you just had to learn basically the basics of every single aircraft, and you would get like a test on it every single week. And from there, depending on how like high you scored in the class, it was kind of dictating where you would get stationed. So from there, that's where everyone, and we were with a lot of Navy guys too. So like literally, like in my class, it was me and one more Marine. So the rest were Navy cats, and the Navy would get their orders to or wherever their ship or something. And then, then the Marines would, get their duty. Basically, they would get their schooling orders, which would also be like their duty station. So,
all right. So then you push out to your B school.
Yeah.
Which
so
brought you back to California.
Back to the West Coast, Camp Pendleton. So, actually take back that last statement. They would basically just get the platform of their aircraft, which those schools would be somewhere else as well. So they would go to their platform school, and then that platform school is when you get your final orders. So I always mix that up because for me, my platform school was ironically just down the street from my duty station now. So I always forget that because some guys got put in the East Coast. So.
All right. So you find yourself back at Camp Pendleton, and you're assigned to Hueys and Cobras. You wrap up your B school, and you're essentially, from that point, you get assigned to a unit, and you're in the Fleet Marine Corps.
Yep. And
now, what a lot of people, in my experience, like a lot of civilians have a hard time understanding is now it's just a job, right? Now for the most part, it's a Monday through Friday. Unless you have one of those MOSs that takes you out to the field and you're gone on weekends and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's a Monday through Friday. You start your job in the morning, you work to the afternoon, you have your evenings off, you have the weekends off for the most part. What's a Fleet Marine Corps day look like for you day-to-day basis? Yeah.
So one thing I will say is my MOS is a lot more different from like the rest of the Marine Corps. Just because we have the flight schedule, so days vary. But as like a good day, just in general, showtime is 6:30. So we pull up to the shop, beginning of shift stuff, and then from there we'll just kind of whatever the workload is. In this instance, we'll just say I'm day crew, so we'll go to the guys who are basically in charge of us. They'll be like, hey, you guys have to do this today. You guys have to do this today. Later at, 1500, you guys are going to go shoot this amount of rockets, this amount of, 20 mil. These birds are going to be the ones flying. These are the backups. Go. So it's just.
So your day is you have X amount of Hueys, X amount of Cobras. They have to fly at this time and this time, and they have to shoot this much ammunition.
Yes, so they have to be up in the air, fully loaded and armed. Let's say if they get in the loading area, say 15:30, and the flight schedule is like, okay, these birds have to be up in the air, loaded, like on their way to the range by 16:15. So that's and then with planning with that, we have to go and make sure that these birds don't have any maintenance issues, make sure that they have proper configurations, basically just making sure that they could take the loadout that they're asking for. And because, these, as cool as these birds are, they're Vietnam era aircraft, so they go down all the time. So when I say going down, I just mean they, before they take off,
maintenance issues.
Not
like crashing.
Yeah, they're not crashing. They'll basically just go, that's the term we use when maintenance issues pop up. We're like, hey, this bird is down. We're rolling to the backup. So it's a big deal sometimes because we have these dummy missiles that will load. So sometimes we'll totally get screwed over. It'll be last minute, and we have to go run out there, swap them over to the next Cobra, and then we'll go take the mounts off of one Huey, go throw them onto another one.
Now, for one bird, as you put it, whether it's a Cobra or a Huey, like how many different units are working on that? You have yourself with aviation ordnance, you have the pilots, obviously, which are officers, but then, what you have comm guys, you have mechanics.
Yeah. So
who's working, how many different MOSs are working on just one bird?
So I'll just go over all the possible shops in the hangar. So there's ordnance, right? We just deal with all the boom stuff. And then you have avionics, which are the electricians. All right, they have all the schematics, and they deal with all the wires on those aircraft. So those guys have it fun. And then you have the flight line, we call them flight line, but those are like our mechanics. The crew chiefs share the same shop with them because crew chiefs have to have the same qualifications as the mechanics, because mechanics basically make sure before the birds go out to fly, they make sure all the fluid levels are good, making sure all the screws are, in the proper spaces. They have their whole checklist they go through, and the crew chiefs have to be capable of that. So crew chiefs share the same shop with the mechanics. And you have airframes. So airframes, it's in the name, deal with panels. They deal with a lot of fluids as well, like making sure that stuff is intact. So they, have all their glue. And I'm just giving a brief, I don't know too much of what these guys are doing. But then you have like shops like flight equipment, and these are all separate MOSs that you could get.
But all these different shops are working on just like one bird, essentially.
It could happen, yeah. So at some point, they're all going to work on that one bird. Flight equipment, they're making sure these guys got AC in the cockpit. So it's
a lot of hands on deck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how would you say? What's the camaraderie like? With just the Marines, like going back to just your unit, like what's the camaraderie like with the Marines in your unit?
Well, it's HMLA 169. We're the best Marine Corps aviation squadron Marine Corps has to offer. So, no, it's we work. The hours are long. It's 10, 12-hour shifts here and there, and that's just here on Camp Pendleton. But I would say overall the camaraderie is just it's work. It gets to the point where when you first check in and you're this brand new boot, it's super cool. But then it just it becomes work after a while, and you start seeing buddies like as you're walking through, and you're like, hey man, what's up? Like, this bird just went down because I screwed up on something. But other than that, I'm gonna get my ass chewed out right now. But I would say camaraderie is pretty chill. I mean, it's like if you ever work anywhere else, like big factory or big warehouse, like, hey, what's up, man?
Would you say that the relationships are? I mean, you worked at a brewery before you joined the Marine Corps. The relationships, I know you had some pretty tight friends there. Would you say the relationships you had working in a private establishment like the brewery were different from the relationships you have in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, because it's the work is different, in the Marine Corps than just working at a brewery. And I still have friends I talk to working at that brewery because it was cool, But there's just a different relationship you build, when it's pitch black outside and we're running around loading 12 different aircraft, sweating your ass off in 29 palms at 3 a.m. and you're still somehow hot, and it's you just like look over to that buddy next to you and you're like, wow, that sucked, and then you continue on with your day. And that's something that like you aren't going to make a proper friendship. Like nobody else is going to experience that except for that person that was there with you. So, there's a bond that builds to where, and every shop has this, because they all go through their own different kind of suck. But specifically, that's us as ordnance men. That's how we get so tight, because we load these birds, and it's sometimes it's easy and sometimes you have bad days. So
I know you're still real young in your career, but with where you're at this point, what's been the most rewarding aspect so far?
Specifically with my MOS?
Yeah, well, just in general, like joining the Marines, like what do you feel has been the most rewarding part of it?
Well, it's just not to say that I could, look in the mirror and I could say that I'm doing pretty good right now. Not that I'm making millions. I'm definitely not doing that, but it's nice to know that I have a stable career going on, and whether I get out, after my first contract, or, re-enlist, I just feel like the Marine Corps has so many options to offer, and same with the other branches as well. But it's just nice to say that, I really got something going for me right now, and it's not just whatever job, and I just feel like it's stable.
Yeah. With the options, I was looking earlier, I was just kind of going through some of the things that like the education centers offer on base. And I mean, this is every base, the tuition assistance, being able to get your degrees, different certifications that they offer. They were talking about, the college classes that you can get. They had something called the Marine Corps credential opportunities online or cool. I'd have to look into that, but it's like another certification program that they have. Career transition assistance, which is like when you're getting out of the military, prepping you for jobs like outside, resume builders, things like that, job placement pathways. Man, there's so many different things that the military has. I mean, even language programs that they set up through like Rosetta Stone, like learning new languages. They have a skill bridge intern with Amazon and logistics. I mean, there's a lot of different programs that I wonder if that the young service members are taking advantage of. I mean, courses in photography, financial literacy seminars all the time. I mean, and on budgeting and saving for retirement. There's just a ton of services that they offer. It's pretty amazing. The different things that they offer.
Yeah, and they do a pretty good job of making it well aware. Like just the other day, we had some guy came in, Skills Bridge. He was in the Marine Corps for 20 something years, and he works on windmills now. So he's basically just saying, like, he was breaking down the whole career afterwards, because guys are going to get out, and guys are going to have no idea what they're going to do afterwards. And I've talked with them all the time. They're like, "Oh, I'm getting out." I'm like, "What are you going to do?" And he's like, "I don't know." So it's definitely good because these guys are getting out in their early 20s. And they're not quite sure. They just know that the military is not for them. So they just want to head out afterwards. But that's the benefit, because now they got schooling covered, and they have skills bridge places like that to where they're high and veteran employees, and they definitely got a spot for them.
Yeah. What advice? What advice do you think you'd give someone who's considering the Marine Corps at this point? I mean, they're sitting in high school right now. They're that senior. Like, what advice would you give that 18-year-old or 17-year-old?
Yeah. As of just preparing to join?
Yeah.
I would say if there's anything you take out of high school, is your physique. So something to keep in mind is, if you're going to go military and you're not going to be this Class A scholar, then, best start hitting the gym, getting run time up, because that's the PFT that every Marine has to do every single year. It consists of, max amount of pull-ups, max amount of floating a plank, which is 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and a 3-mile run. So, there's different scores you could get with that. But I would definitely say physical fitness is by far the most important, specifically for the Marines. I would also, it wouldn't hurt to maybe read up on some leadership books. Big shout out to Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. That was, I can't read that book enough times, but that was, I read it briefly before I went into boot camp, and I wish I read it more, because I think I only read it once. But every time I read that book, I learn something new. And it's just like at every stage of life, I read that book, and it's an entire different chapter every single time. So I would definitely just leadership books in general. I would say it would be a good investment before heading in. Maybe if you're not social, definitely work on your social skills, because that's one thing that they aren't going to take are introverts. So maybe just getting yourself out there, learning how to hold a conversation with somebody, because you're going to have to be pretty vocal once you join. But even once you hit the fleet, it's always good to have good people skills. And that's one thing that no matter what, introvert or not, the Marine Corps is going to force you out of that. So that's one thing I would definitely emphasize is because there are still some quiet people, but at the end of the day, they can hold a conversation with someone. So
yeah. How would you say like your experiences in the Marine Corps has kind of recalibrated your perspective in life? I mean, in high school, we've kind of joked about this. Like when you're a senior and you graduate, you kind of think you accomplished this great goal of graduating high school, and you're like, man, I did it. I was the big dog on campus. But really, I mean, you're just kind of starting things, and now you're this young man, you're this young adult. How would you say the Marine Corps has played that role in kind of recalibrating your thought process on adulthood and how you see things?
Well, I mean, I graduated at 17, and I would be lying if I said I was the same person I was 3 years ago. So it's it definitely fast-paced. It fast tracks you. I'll say that. And like I said, like those leadership billets I was putting at an early stage to now, just even being an NCO, and just actually having to look out for other people, teaching young Marines, and teaching your peers, learning from your peers. Like I said, those social skills that you develop throughout the career, it's humongous, and they kind of hold your hand too, honestly, because they know there's a lot of young guys that are joining. So like for me, I didn't know what to do like with taxes and stuff. And one thing my unit has been really good is like introducing guys to like TurboTax, or even just setting up appointments with H&R Block. Like the little things like that. One thing like they're really big on too is making sure like if you have a car, is it insured? Is your driver license like
just life stuff?
Just like how to be an adult,
Yeah.
And a lot of guys don't have this stuff, backed up. So they just kind of look at them,
That's good, man. Well, you just can't assume that because people show up like, oh, they must have learned this from their family. You can't assume that, right? I mean, especially in the Marine Corps, you have to, or in the military in general, you take these people into your unit, and you have to, you got to kind of start from your foundation. You have to ensure that everybody in your team and in your unit is doing what they need to do. And sometimes you have to back up and ask them questions that might seem a little basic or a little elementary. And ask them questions like, hey, do you know how to do this? And in the process, you might, it might seem embarrassing or like, well, yeah, of course I know that, but you never know. You're going to run into people who are like, you know what? Nobody ever taught me how to file my taxes, or how, I've run into people well into their 30s that never knew how to change a tire. You just don't know until somebody teaches you certain things. So I can get that. And I respect the hell out of that too. That they do that.
Yeah. Even like through the MOS too, like how I said I wasn't tool savvy now, almost my whole MOS is pretty much working with tools. So, now I'm pretty fluent with how to work a toolbox now.
Just completely change your game.
Yeah. So it's little stuff like that too,
That's not little, man. That's like man book entry stuff. I mean,
yeah, it's definitely, cause some guys will join, the MOS, and like, they were like construction prior. So they already have a huge head start. And with me, I'm like, here I am with a flathead trying to take this panel off, and 45 seconds for each screw, and it only has 8 threads. So it's it took some hitting on the head for me to get the hang of it. But
so what's next for you with the Marine Corps? What do you what's next on your radar? Your goal?
Well, I would say my next goal would definitely try to pick up sergeant in that first 5-year contract that I'm on right now. That'd be pretty dope if I could get 2 back-to-back meritorious promotions. So,
I mean, shout out to you. You picked up corporal in 17 months, which, for those who are unaware, that's pretty impressive. Probably not the fastest time anybody's picked it up. There's stories of guys during wartime who pick it up in single digits.
Yeah.
But
7 months.
We're not in wartime. This is just, you being squared away, learning your stuff, 3 meritorious promotions in a row. That speaks pretty high on you. I know you're not going to brag about it, but I will. That's being pretty fucking squared away. So congrats to you on that. Corporal in 17 months, from start to where you're at now. So sergeant being the next goal is that's a good goal.
Yeah.
Good goal to have. I'm sorry. You going to say something?
Yeah. So, that was definitely, my closest goal. But overall, if I had to say one big goal I have in the Marine Corps is to eventually become an officer. So like we were talking about the education earlier and stuff. And it's funny because after I graduated high school, I was in no mindset whatsoever for doing any type of school. And here I am, and I was doing some college work earlier this evening. So it's, it's so funny too, because it's so convenient doing it because, I don't have to spend a dime doing it with the tuition assistance that I'm given. And, I could, if I want to, I can take as many courses as I want, but I'm only taking one right now. So it's kind of nice, it's just take one course at a time. And that's it. I type my little discussion post, but, yeah, that would be my next goal, especially working on the air wing and just kind of working with pilots every single day. It's definitely inspired me to go that route. So I would, it's definitely a dream. My next dream of mine, big goal, is to become a pilot.
Just, the free schooling, like you said, man, just one of the many benefits that the military has, that they offer.
Yeah.
Huge one to consider. If you're thinking about it, you're out there and you're worrying about how you're going to pay for school, whether you go active or reserves, man, the military will help you pay for that tuition assistance and help you set yourself up for the future. So something to consider. All right. Well, I think we'll close this out, man. Just had a couple questions for you, for those listening. Just kind of from a personal standpoint, you listen to any or reading, you mentioned Extreme Ownership and how that helped you. Any other books or podcasts that you're reading or listening to right now?
Yeah. Really the only other podcast that, really the only podcast I do listen to is Jocko podcast, sporadically here and there. And, every now and then Joe Rogan, nothing crazy. But, as for books, I would definitely just, I would recommend David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. That's a good one. Definitely a good inspiration book to where you can look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, even if you're at ground zero, you can only go up from there. So that's a good book. Extreme Ownership, like I mentioned earlier, I highly recommend that for any scenario you're in, military or not, because that book does a good job of transversing it to the civilian world as well. So I would definitely emphasize that one. I'm getting into this new book. Well, it's not new, but it is for me. Dichotomy of Leadership. Basically a spin-off of Extreme Ownership. Just gets in a little bit more detail. But yeah, I would say those are my bigger recommendations.
All right. If you could give one piece of advice to younger Andrew, little Andrew, what would it be?
Oh, man.
Maybe not little Andrew, but a younger Andrew.
Well, somehow everything ended up working out. But I would probably say stay motivated. It gets rough, no matter what scenario you're in. But if I had to go and tell myself back then, because I definitely had my, off moments to where I just was doing nothing. And it kind of kicks me back in the ass. Who knows how that could have changed my career back then. But I definitely would have said just stay motivated in school, because, that teaches you how to study. Stay motivated in physical fitness, because, like I said, the only thing you get to leave the biggest thing you leave with out of high school is your physique. So I would definitely just motivate myself more to stay on that path. But, also that was my goal, was just to join the military. So if there's anything I would have done, it was just lack of motivation. I would have liked to cut that out.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I get that, but I think it's tough when you're in high school. You have a lot of distractions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of immaturity. That's where parents got to step in, kind of keep you on the track. Teachers do their best. It's not really their job. I mean, God, there's so many kids running around. I mean, they can't be responsible for all of them. You know, I'm sure they try to do their best. They do a hell of a job, but there's so many kids. Like, how many kids graduated your class alone?
1,131.
Yeah,
Around there. 1,100 something.
11. Okay. Do you know how many how many from your graduating class joined the military? I mean,
Well, I remember during the graduation ceremony, I mean, they were announced so-and-so is going to,
it wasn't many.
It's probably count on one hand, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it was less than 10.
I mean, I follow, Instagram is pretty good at, keeping up with people nowadays. I don't see anyone else that I know from my class I joined. So
that's why the numbers are down.
Just any branch. Yeah. I don't know.
Sad.
I'm not sure.
That hurts. It hurts the old ticker, man, for me. That hurts my heart. A lot of great opportunities out there, and I don't think it's because people despise or hate the military for any particular reason. I think it's just not in the forefront of their mind.
That's one thing too. I remember in high school is I remember telling guys like, "Oh yeah, I was going to go Marine Corps," and they would think of that opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, and they're like, "Good luck." Like,
Jesus, that's such
like, oh yeah, it's
my God,
storming in Normandy Beach.
Yeah, that's not how it is. Wasn't even the Marine Corps in that scene. But
I know.
All right. Well, listen, bud, I appreciate you coming in and sharing your experience. I know there's a lot of great young people who go through boot camp, and every week the Marine Corps is doing their best to push the numbers through. There's a lot of people who have gone through and stepped on those yellow footprints. You have now joined that elite group, and sharing your experience is something I truly am proud of and appreciate. So thank you for your service, and I'm definitely looking forward to watching you for the rest of your career, buddy. We're going to have you back on, man, as you progress and as you achieve some of these goals. But I thought it was important to get your story, especially while it was still fresh in your head. You got your first year under your belt, but especially some of the entry-level stuff. The rumors we hear and the fears that we hear of younger people who are in high school and college age, they still have the memory of Full Metal Jacket and Saving Private Ryan, as you said. That's how they envision this stuff. And, it's a shame. It's the whole reason people never went into the beach, right? Like after they saw Jaws, they didn't want to get in the water. And it's the same reason why people don't want to join the military, is because they see these action scenes, and they need to understand that even though that is a reality, it isn't the only reality. And right now there is a calling. The military needs you. The country needs you. But there are other jobs out there. There are other things that you can do. And there are a ton of benefits to joining the military that, people should be aware of. So any closing words for you? Any words of encouragement, wisdom that you think someone can hear on their own recalibration journey?
Just keep your head up. If there's anything I've learned is, trying to be successful, trying to win. You're going to fail. You're going to fail. You're going to fail. And then you're going to fail one more time. And then one more time after that. So it's you have to be able to stay humble. You have to not let your ego get in the way of life, and you just have to learn how to learn new things and get an experience from other people. Be open to new advice all the time. So that's one thing I wish I knew when I was younger as well. But definitely, if you have a goal, just keep striving towards it, whatever that goal is. But don't let comfort get in the way, because I've been there. Comfort is a very nice spot and makes time go by very quick. So definitely, you have your comfort here and there, but if you want to be successful, that's one thing I've learned is you got to be uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So
yeah, I like that. Yeah. It's a treat to be comfortable, but it's not something that you should get used to.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me on. It was cool to share this experience with you.
Yeah, bud, man, it's awesome. I don't know how many times, a situation like this, someone can have their son on the other side, but I loved it. So, hey, everybody, thanks for listening. We'll be back again soon. Got a lot on the agenda coming up. And remember, wherever your path has led you, no matter how hard life can be, no matter how hard you have fallen, you are not done. We'll see you later.